so tonight I'm going to be speaking about the benefits of budgeting. A few semesters ago, I was in a class and we were on the topic of budgeting, and one of my peers, he was married, had several children, a house, like just a very well-established family man. He made a remark, something to the effect of, every time my wife and I try to budget, something happens and it doesn't work out. There's some unexpected expense and we're never able to achieve the goal that we had set out to achieve in the beginning. And as I thought about this, although none of us are in the position of my peer, all of us, or maybe some of us, have felt that discouragement before when budgeting. Like, we're trying, we're doing our very best to stick to this budget, and it just seems like things keep coming up or we're not able to achieve the goal that we had set out to, which can be super frustrating. Even though my husband and I have only been married for 1.5 years, we've tried several different methods of budgeting, and some have been successful and some not so successful. But I've learned a lot from this experience, as well as the classes that I've taken when we've talked about this specific topic. So I think it's something important and relevant for all of us to know. And this is kind of supported by a research study which says that developing positive financial behaviors during the college years, which all of us are in college years right now, even if we're not going to college, increases an individual's chances of attaining a better quality of life later in life. So the more that we are aware and develop these positive financial behaviors now, the more likely we are to have a better quality of life later on, which I thought was really interesting and again, super relevant to all of us. So today I'm going to talk about 3 different reasons why budgeting is important, or the benefits of budgeting. So the first one is that it helps you to save more money. The second is that it promotes self-reliance. And the third is that it helps you avoid debt or pay off your debt, which is really nice as well. So let's go ahead and begin. I'll first talk about saving money. So in kind of a basic budget, you'll want to establish how much you're earning, or you want to look at how much you're earning, and then how much you're spending, or your expenses. And that's kind of like the basics, so that you know where your money is being allocated. So kind of a personal experience, my husband and I, when we were about, maybe 1 year ago, so we were probably 6 months married, and it'd been a rough month budgeting, money-wise, I guess I should say. So we decided to add up all of our miscellaneous expenses. And I don't mean like rent and some of those consistent withdrawals, but I mean just like maybe date night stuff, going to the movies, going to the grocery store really quick. And I was shocked. We spent $1,000 that month. Over $1,000 in that month. And I was embarrassed. I was shocked that we had spent that much. But it was a moment for us to sit back and say, wow, we need to cut back in this area dramatically, because we could have used that money and put it into our savings account rather than just using it on whatever. And so that's what budgeting is about. It helps you to save more money and see where you can cut back. But it also allows you the opportunity to put a specific amount in a savings account. So rather than just letting money flow in and out, you're actually saying, this is how much we can afford to put in our savings account, or this is how much we want to push ourselves to be able to put in the savings account. And as you watch that account grow, that's where you feel that rewarding, we're getting somewhere, we're accomplishing our goals. But it can be hard to get to that place sometimes. Well, the Federal Trade Commission actually said there's 3 reasons for building the savings account and why it's important for us. And they said it's because 1, there's emergencies. 2, sometimes we need to buy expensive things. And 3, we just need to achieve our goals. And I think those could be interpreted in a broad spectrum, but I don't know how many of us have gone outside and there's been a weird light that's turned on in the car and we're like, oh great, we need to take this in and figure out what's going on. Or maybe a laptop gives out, just something unexpected, and it kind of puts a damper on our budgeting plans, and we have to use some of our savings to go ahead and replace whatever it is or repair whatever it is. So that's why it's important to have those little extra funds saved up. The second reason why, or the second benefit of budgeting, is to avoid and to pay off debt. So if you think about it, when you're at the store and you're like, oh, I really like this item, if you're aware of your financial situation, then you're able to say, okay, technically we have money on credit that we could use to buy this item, but we really don't actually have the money right now to really buy this with money that we've earned. And so in that way, you can see how it would help you to avoid some of that debt, because you recognize things that you really can and cannot afford at that point. This is supported by the federal student aid when they said, when you stick to a budget, you avoid spending more than you earn, and you can avoid or reduce your credit card debt. So it doesn't just talk about avoiding, but it says you can also reduce it. And it says, and other types of debt, including school loans. So I don't know how many of us have school loans, how many of us don't, but that can be a big expense, or even a car that we make monthly payments on as well. Usually we have an amount that we pay each month to pay off towards that. And hopefully it's a goal that we've set. We're gonna spend this much money on this car each month and have it paid off by this time. And the church has placed a big emphasis on debt calendars and making sure that you can track how much money each month or each paycheck, whatever it might be, so that you can eliminate that debt and it's not something hanging over you for the rest of your life because you've chosen to ignore it. And then lastly, again, it's that issue of allocating that specific amount to that purpose. So when we budget, we're really able to say, this is going to savings and this is going towards our debt. And that really helps you to know exactly where funds are going and where they actually need to go. And then lastly, I'll talk about how budgeting helps you to be more self-reliant, which is also something the church emphasizes. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with Dave Ramsey, but he knows a lot about finance management. And he talks about budgeting, and on his website, daveramsey.com, there's a blog post there, and it wrote, a budget doesn't limit your freedom, it gives you your freedom. And that really made me think of this principle of self-reliance, that at the time it might seem limiting because we're restraining ourselves from buying certain things or controlling ourselves. But as we talked about in that research, it helps us to provide a better quality of life later on. So it might not be the most pleasing thing now, but it's actually really freeing when we get to a later point in our lives and we're more financially secure because of decisions that we made now. And also, I don't know if you're familiar with the pamphlet One for the Money, which is by Elder Marvin J. Ashton. And he says this: money in the lives of Latter-day Saints should be used as a means of achieving eternal happiness. So that's the purpose of money, is to help us have and feel eternal happiness. Careless and selfish uses cause us to live in financial bondage. And it just made me think about that, careless and selfish uses. And I think maybe each one of us are guilty of maybe discerning between wants and needs in the wrong way, thinking that we really need something when actually we just really want this something. And so that can be considered careless and selfless. And even when we go binge and buy something that's probably too much money and we regret it later, but those kinds of things, when we do those continuously, that's what kind of puts us in that financial bondage, because we might put ourselves in a place where we can't, if another crisis were to come or an emergency, we couldn't really support ourselves, or we might need to reach out for support and help from others. So in conclusion, I hope that you've been able to learn a little bit more about the benefits of budgeting for you and your spouse, because it's very much a two-way street. It needs to be a joint effort or it doesn't work as well. So hopefully you've seen the benefit of doing it as a couple, because I know that it will help you save more money, and that it will help you avoid and pay off debt that you might have, in addition to helping you maintain your self-reliance. So I hope that you'll consider how you and your spouse can have some of these benefits of budgeting in your life. Thank you so much.